Monza? There is an oval? Here are the track conditions that the lap was set in. Let's speed this up a little. Now back to normal speed. Yes, you heard right. Monza does have an oval. So, let's get into it. We got a straight. Stay to the left. Then kind of hug the left side. Bring it down. And try to hug this yellow line. Don't go past the yellow line though. Because once you go past the yellow line, it gets pretty bumpy and then it actually slows you down. So, and then you kind of open up the wheel here as it goes straight. Then we fast forward to the next corner. We start from the left hand side, kind of staying towards the middle, slowly drifting to the right side. Keep it tight, and then as it opens up, we open up the steering just enough to get to the outside, and that gets us the most amount of top speed in my opinion. Alright, now let's get into the fun stuff. Although in the race, the oval is going to be pretty fun with tons of draft, tons of passing opportunities. So as we approach T1, we're on the lookout for 150 board. We want to brake before the 150 board, ideally before the bushes here, or at the bushes. So that's what we're looking at for a braking marker. It's better be safe than sorry. I advise braking earlier rather than later. It's more important to get good exits out of here. These are huge traction zones, so focus on that exit rather than trying to get everything on the entry. We're braking fairly high peak pressure, staying to the left here as much as possible. Fairly early turn in because what we're trying to do is run the tires through here. We want to make sure that the middle of the car doesn't cross this here. If it crosses that, then it's usually a slowdown. So try to have the middle of the car crossing through here. And then we're trying to keep it a little bit to the right hand with a little dab of throttle. And then real quick, bring it back to the left. And the key thing here is to run over with the left side tires through here on the curbing. You can run quite a bit. The car's going to bounce, but you just got to be patient on throttle and it will handle this. If you go around, you're going to lose time. And you can see we run completely over those curbs. And ideally, the car should end up with the right-hand tires right into this gap here, which avoids the curve for loss of traction. This is a very flat part. So that's why we want to get the tires there. A lot of people don't really get the tires all the way there. They usually end up around here. So you end up missing out on a lot of top speed down the straight. Definitely don't get onto the gravel. That's going to slow you down. You can get on it a little bit, but you want to minimize it. Fast forward to the next corner, the next chicane. Obviously, we want to hug the right side, cover the least amount of track. And as we approach in here, we want to be on the lookout for the bridge And also this orange barrier over here, we want to be braking before this. So kind of in this range. And it just depends, like how much speed did you carry through the first chicane will determine also how late you brake here. Also, if you have draft, things to keep in mind. Brake pressure is going to be a little less than T1, around 80% brake pressure. And we're aiming to get to this curb. Ideally, you want to put some of your tire onto this curb because that will open up this left fender. And that's what we want to do. A lot of people don't realize that, hey, I can use this a little bit. But in order to use that, I have to be cognizant that the track is going to open up there. So I want to line up my car in a way that I can brake to that point in a straight line. So you can see I'm not really parallel to the edge of the track here, kind of in a diagonal. So let's take a look at how the turn-in happens. Fairly early turning again, just like T1. And we want to run over this curb completely. Like ideally, you want tires through here like this. And you won't get a slowdown if you do it this much. If you do it too much, you will get a slowdown. Ideally, we're keeping the car fairly to the left, kind of in the middle of the track. And you got to be patient here. Patient to turn in because we want to run over through here with the right side tires. You can put the right side tires here and not lose too much time, but these GT3 cars can definitely handle this big yellow curb. And just like T1 exit, we want left side tires on this flat surface over here because that allows us to use all of the track. Avoid the gravel. You dip your rear tire into the gravel, more than likely the rear end of the car, it's going to snap back on you and you're going to lose some time. And you don't want to lose time there. All right, on to the Lesmos. I'm looking for the apex. These corners happen fast. So I'm looking for the apex. And in my peripheral, I'm kind of looking at this big tree over here. I don't know if you saw this big tree over here on the right-hand side. This is kind of a guide for me, kind of off of my peripheral. But I'm paying attention to the apex, really. And I'm trying to brake before this tree. Somewhere before this tree. It doesn't, it's not exact all the time, so you're going to have to adjust your release of brake and your peak pressure according to when you actually brake. Fairly late turn in, I would say. And we're trying to hug this at the right moment so that we can get on throttle really confidently. And you can see I struggled a little bit to get to full throttle, but I was able to use all of the track. And that is key. Key is use all of this track. You can see how much I ran. I ran almost to the gravel. You can use pretty much the whole thing without an off track. So utilize it. As we approach second Lesmo, we're on the lookout for the 50 board. We're going to be braking kind of halfway between the 50 and the 100 board. And again, this is more of a peripheral thing. Our eyes are here on the apex because that's most important. That's going to tell us how much to release the brake. So we're on the brake, peak pressure, and keep it in third gear through these corners. I forgot to mention that. Fairly early turn in here. And we're just going to avoid this curb in here. You can use it. I like to just kind of stay off of it. I like to place my car through here. It just depends what you like. You got to find the line that's more comfortable for you. But ideally, you're going to run out all the way out wide. And again, look at how much road you can use. Pretty much you can use the whole thing. Let's see if we can see it from the far chase mode. As you can see, really just like 2 tire widths to the left-hand side. We're past, the middle of our car is past this white line. So this doesn't really adhere to some of the track limitations that iRacing has. It's just more lenient. So take advantage of that, use every single inch of the track. Okay, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to Ascari. All right. And as we get towards Ascari, we're on the lookout for many. There are a few different things here. There's the 100 board, right? 100 board over here. There's the orange barrier over here. There's the access road there. A lot of different markers that you can use. So as we approach, I'm trying to break around this asphalt, this access road. Well, I guess it's not really an access road, but it's a piece of asphalt here on the right hand side. And that's about where I want to start braking. Kind of breaking the diagonals. You can see similar to T2, the second chicane. I'm trying to get those tires onto this curbing here, those right hand side tires onto the curbing. And I try to turn in from there. Here, we want to use some curbing, but we can't use all of this. Otherwise, it spits you out to the right hand side. What we want to do is run over kind of like this with the left hand tire. You'll know when you hit too much of this because the car will bounce and it'll go right. And you'll miss the next part of Ascari. And you don't want to do that. You see, that was just enough. You could see it hit, the car hit 2 bumps. And you'll feel it in the steering wheel. The key thing is to not run all the way out wide to the right because we want to maintain this next right hander of Ascari flat out as possible. As flat out as possible. Sometimes you can't do it flat out. You saw a little bit of a lift there from me. And through here, we want to make sure we run over this sausage curb over here. Now, the trick is that if you carry too much speed through this Ascari here, as you can see, like I'm carrying tons of speed through here. And you can see the car kind of understeering to the left. More so than I would want, which is going to make this next part really tricky. Ideally, I would want to be a little bit more to the right. I would have had to sacrifice a little bit more. So I have to adjust here on the fly. And I know I'm going to either have to lift here, otherwise I'm going to get an off track on exit, or I can do a little short shift. And you'll see that I chose the second option. I did a short shift as I'm crossing over that big curb. And that allows me to stay within the track limits. If I hadn't done the short shift, then I wouldn't have been able to stay within the track limits. I would have had to either lift or get the off track. All right, as we approach Parabolica here, we're on the lookout for the 100 board. We're pretty much braking right before the 100 board. I would say about 1 car length into this green zone on the left-hand side. And we're going to get down to 3rd gear, fairly hard braking, fairly early turn-in. What you want to do here is get on the throttle as early as you can. See, here I had a little bit of understeer. I ended up not being able to get to full throttle completely and as confidently as I wanted to. I still was able to use all the track though and maximize my exit. So really only about 200ths of a second, I think, lost there. But if you maximize your exit, you're still going to gain lap time because look at this huge straight, that it leads to, and then it leads to the oval part of the track. So make sure you get great exits. The key to Monza, traction zones. Sacrifice the entry, get good exits. Stop trying to get everything on entry. And be careful T1. It's going to be treacherous with all those GT3s going into T1. Keep an eye out on the apex. If you see crashes, hey, take the access road on the left side. Avoid all that. Try to get your car clean and have a good race.